I read the annoying paperwork. Okay, I'm going to call the Council for Human Services June 7th, 2021 meeting to order. As a preliminary matter, this is Brooke Moore, Chair of the Council for Human Services. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please unmute and respond in the affirmative. Athlon Sweeney.
Yes.
Vanessa Rendero.
Yes.
Claudia Valle.
Yes.
Thank you. And that's it, right? Yep. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jericho Mealy.
In attendance.
And Anna Dina.
Here.
Thank you. And anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Matt Haffenreffer.
Yes.
And Kelly Steffen.
Yes.
And for the record, I want to acknowledge that Sue Mintonen is with us today. She has applied for a seat and is going through the nomination process. So hopefully she'll be joining us. Okay, good evening. This open meeting of the Nantucket Council for Human Services is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded, so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Nantucket Council for Human Services is convening by video conference via the Zoom app, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait till the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay. I was thinking that might be the last time I have to do this, but we don't know for sure. So we've established a quorum, and the next item on the agenda is approval of the April minutes. Does anyone have any comments or corrections? If not, a motion to approve.
I so move.
And a second from Claudia or Vanessa?
Second.
Okay. From both. We'll give it to Claudia this time. Okay, by roll call vote, Athlon Sweeney?
Yes.
Claudia?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
And I vote aye. Okay, next item on the agenda is an update from the Director of Human Services on the COVID vaccine program. So,
Well, I'll start fresh
Okay.
on that one. Okay, so basically we have a variety of different ways to get COVID vaccines on Nantucket. There are 3 non-governmental bodies doing vaccinations on the island. They are health imperatives and DAC dental arts and dance pharmacy. These are stopgapped by a series of outreach and educational events run by the town and myself. We have a standing clinic every Wednesday from 5 to 7. We are hoping to use that as a Johnson & Johnson vaccine for people who have problems, either problems around reporting, problems around digital access, problems around during work hours vaccination efforts. Those are all sort of the stopgap measure. The one place we can direct people consistently to get a vaccine is the Salt Marsh Clinic. And we are primarily going to be doing Johnson & Johnson there, but with the exit of Nantucket Cottage Hospital from the vaccination program, we are now stepping up to fill a first dose Pfizer role as part of that clinic, and then with additional sort of breakouts and small clinics taking place basically anywhere from the public school to any number of small businesses when we're doing outreach clinics at as well. So we have, we're hoping to move on to an education and outreach component of this as soon as we sort of square away the ability for minors on the island to get vaccinated, because as it stands right now, the only people who can legally vaccinate minors are myself and Heather and the program that we run. So as soon as we have a additional source for that, or we have a way to consistently address the current Pfizer shortfalls and the resulting difficulty for minors to get vaccinated, we'll be moving back towards a wider scale approach where we're going to be making partnerships with businesses to get events catered. We have a model based on the National Academy of Medicine's equitable vaccine distribution plan, where we sort of make partnerships with community members. We have some accessibility to certain types of CARES funding that specifically covers outreach and equitable distribution actions that we're hopefully going to be using, both to assist with translation services from locally sourced, sounds weird when I say locally sourced for human beings, but locally sourced translators and interpreters, and then also to sort of hopefully pay for catering so that we can basically slide into the communications channels that the El Salvadorian market has established with its community, and we can sort of double up on our methods of reaching people who may not have, as well as sort of get more in-community buy-in basically for vaccination efforts. This is continuing apace with Brooks' plans, and I'm only pointing this way because on my screen you're there. Brooks' work with the communications access, and then with a variety of other kind of like communications and sort of outreach efforts, basically. The videos for hesitancy with in native languages of the underrepresented communities here, as well as sort of addressing a lot of the concerns and hesitancy around being vaccinated in the first place, around particular types of vaccine, and then sort of stressing that even if we get through the summer successfully, then we will be back in high exposure and high communication or communicability situations starting with the fall, and there exists still a reservoir of unvaccinated individuals on the island, so that to prevent us having another bad COVID season this coming fall, we need to get as many people vaccinated as early as possible. And I'd like to be back on getting the people who have genuine difficulties being vaccinated, because they do not operate within the kind of world that most organizations are comfortable with addressing. So as soon as we get the minor vaccination issue sorted out, we'll be heading back to that. The next big component on that is going to be our block party model. The block party model is on-site variety event style education opportunities with a gateway to vaccination. We plan on kind of going there, explaining why people should get vaccinated, addressing points of concern about all sorts of different issues people may or may not have with the vaccine, and try and give good, solid reasons to people for getting vaccinated among those that have chosen not to so far. We are currently reasonably well staffed with volunteers, although we can always use extra time and extra manpower, especially when we expand to the broad, the kind of the block party events. And then, yeah, I mean, the Salt Marsh Clinic will continue until demand goes away. We own that spot. We don't need to get anyone's approval to use it for anything. So it's really easy for us to keep that one running. And then we'll be doing larger scale vaccination, sort of pop-ups and satellite clinics, as well as a continual presence on Wednesday nights, and then trying to have a really solid weekend option, a Sunday option, ideally probably 12 to 2, some area around there. Getting that set up is somewhat difficult. We are tentatively hoping to have something stood up by the 27th. And if getting things assembled before that goes quicker, then we may do a trial run earlier than that, if at all possible. But the idea is to have at least 2 permanent places that people can go and get vaccinated with no pre-registration, minimal reporting, and you know, as much interaction with people. Instead of just trying to crank people through a machine, we're going to try and be in a position where we can kind of explain why people should get vaccinated, why they should choose a particular vaccine, what that means both for themselves, their families, and the community they live in, which is a different task than dealing with high demand. So yeah, we were not really geared up for a high demand situation. We were geared up for a high supply and hesitant populace. And we're pivoting on that front as quickly and efficiently as we can.
Okay, thanks, Jericho. I just want to follow up because I've been working on a video project, and where we've boiled it down to is we're going to have Kailani DeLima and Barbara, her last name escapes me, who's a nurse at the hospital, have a conversation in Portuguese. And then we're going to have Claudia and Roberto Santamaria have a conversation in Spanish. And what we need is concerns, questions, worries from the community, so that we can pre-plan what this conversation will look like to bring. Oh, and we're also going to have Heather Francis hopefully talking to Sunny Daly about, particularly about women of childbearing years, pregnant, breastfeeding moms, and those particular issues from Sunny, who's really well known in the maternal healthcare community. So we're going to be putting those 3 conversations together in the next week or so. And really what we need more than anything is, what are the concerns that we need to address in these videos? And I'm, you know, happy to take those by email, and I'll be collecting them. So anything you guys are hearing in the community would be great. And then, yeah, any questions from you guys about vaccine and, you know, Athlon?
The only question I had was for Jericho, is we were getting into next fall as that time where we're going to start to go more indoors. Do you have any information on, and I know I'm getting ahead a little bit, but people who already have the vaccine getting boosters?
The studies are still ongoing on that. The last substantial update I got on that was that it looks like you're going to have pretty solid immunity between 12 and 18 months after the initial, or after the second dose. That is still that is still being studied. There has been no one vaccinated now that has had their immunity decline. So we don't know how long it's going to take. The first person vaccinated, I think, on the planet, not out of serum tests, was, I believe, in October of last year. So the longest anyone's ever been vaccinated is October till now. So and their vaccine has not run out. From what I understand of serum testing, which is testing not done in a human body, but done with human blood and tissues, simulating what a human body would be like, that's where they're getting the 12 to 18 months. The last I asked Gary Shaw about this, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and he was the one saying 12 to 18 weeks, but more study necessary. So I think we're going to get through this flu season without having to do a booster shot. I believe that the major issues in this fall are going to be around the unvaccinated. I've seen some pretty nasty statistical analyses of the amount of COVID infections when you take out the people who are vaccinated and look at the population there. And among non-vaccinated people right now, it's higher rates of positivity than we saw, I think, even at the worst part in the US. So I don't think we're going to need to work until boosters until somewhere in 2022. So I think that should answer the question.
Okay, great, thanks. Anybody else have anything or?
And this can be anything COVID related. If you have any COVID related questions or anything like that, just let me know.
Okay, Evelyn? Follow up?
Do they have any good data? I know they were looking at it about length of time getting your second COVID vaccine. They initially were saying it's not an issue if you had to wait a number of weeks later than your, I think it was third week, generally third or fourth week. Any new data on that?
On all of the mRNA vaccines, those are the ones that require the 2 doses. The last CDC guidance I saw on this point was that up to 1 month after the first shot, so if you were originally scheduled to get it in 3 weeks and you got it a month after that 3rd week, it still had the same efficacy as the on the date. So you had about a month of leeway past your second dose date when there wasn't a statistically significant decrease in protection, but I haven't really seen anything past that, nor have I seen any particular studies on whether or not a single dose of one of the mRNA vaccines decays quicker or whether it has less susceptibility. So there are definitely questions on that front that I do not think answers yet exist. But I am reasonably sure that 1 month's leeway on the second dose, I think that is still CDC operating procedure right now, and they've been pretty good about adjusting other stuff along the way.
I wasn't sure how much that information was out there, and I was hearing you say a lot of people had the 1 day dose. I wondered if that was affecting, like with the busy season, everything, if people are missing the date, if they think, well, now I just can't get it.
No, I mean, I think we've had, because we're the only place getting Pfizer, we're the only place giving Pfizer right now. Everyone who has a half Pfizer vaccination is getting in touch with us. And we're going to follow the CDC guidance on that one as best we can. But it's not on the island specifically. The last couple of second dose clinics that the hospital ran at the VFW, and I think a couple of the ones that they ran in-house on hospital campus as well, had like a large number of no-shows for second doses. So our first dose vaccination numbers are about, I think we're 10,000 the last full reporting day. And then now the fact is that we have to count Dan's health imperatives, us. And so it's a lot more complicated to keep track of the numbers. I don't know how much that second dose, number has dropped or decreased there. The one unarguably good news point that I have for you today on COVID is that we did the sewage test at the Monday evening to Tuesday evening after Fagawi, and this was the worst possible conditions for communication in the summer because it was bad weather, so the temperature was low. You had a high density of people inside, and then the test results we got back on Thursday of last week suggested we could not even detect COVID in the sewage. So we had our worst case spread for the summer, most likely, and we have 0 COVID to show for it. So we are probably in good shape over the course of this summer. And it's not going to be until we have the reservoirs of unvaccinated people getting cramped together, and we get that same social networking, that same network of human interactions. I don't want to say social networking, but the same network of human interactions gets a shuffle up in season and out season. And that's one of the reasons we got a huge spike as the season changed, because people are interacting with different people in season and out season. So you get crossover there. And that's when the reservoir of unvaccinated people and the potential for more vaccine to be flowing around, more virus to be flowing around in that circumstances may come and be a little bit of a problem. But I am, knock on wood, about as happy as I have been about the COVID numbers in the community. I'm about as happy of them as I have been since I started this position.
Okay, thanks, Jericho. Claudia, your hand was up there for a second. Did you want to ask something?
No, I mean, was wondering, but he says, I mean, was curious to know how many people already have been vaccinated. But he said
our last single one is about 10,000 first doses. And we'll be reporting the next batch of them on the 15th of June, and that should be all inclusive of, everybody doing vaccines. So I'm expecting I'm hoping 1,500 to 2,000 higher than it was with the last report at 10K.
Oh, thank you. That is good. Good number. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm like I give NCH a lot of guff, but they got a lot of people vaccinated very efficiently under very difficult circumstances.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific. If there's nothing else, I'm going to move us along because we do have a few things on the agenda tonight, and I don't want to spend all of our time on COVID now that we have a window into the future. I'm actually going to take the agenda out of order and ask if Matt and Kelly are ready to go first so that you don't have to hang around through our deliberations about future projects. I realized that when I ordered the agenda, I probably should have done it that way. So if you guys are ready, go for it. I want to introduce Matt Haffenreffer and Kelly Steffen of Process First, and they're going to give us a presentation on a food security program that they're developing, and they wanted input from our group about it and to educate us about what they have planned and get input from us. So take it away, guys.
Thanks, Brooke. So my name is Matt Haffenreffer. I run Process First, and what we are is a social impact consulting firm, and we work to create sustainable systems, and we're really focused on health and the environment. So my teammate Kelly and I are working to build a better food system here on Nantucket, and our focus is around food access and improving the local economy. So what we've seen through our work and conversations is gaps in the island's food access and security. And so we've built a program that we think helps to address some of those gaps. So what we'd like to do today is share the program and hear from you all to see if there's any either partners we should know about who can help us enroll certain people in need, or if there's gaps that we're not seeing that we should be made aware of. So if that works for you all, we'll dive in. I'll give you a brief overview of what the program is that we've been building, and then get some feedback on those questions. Great. So with a few partners, we've designed this program based on initially our work with Pip and Anchor. So Pip and Anchor is a local food hub run by Rita Higgins, Chris Sleeper, and Mayumi Hattori. They're going into the location that is formerly Annie's. And what they're doing is they're buying food from local farmers and nearby farmers off the island to get healthy, seasonal, local food to everyone on the island. And so with them, they have a real focus on doing right by the community and getting more food to more people who need it, and increasing the quality of that food. So with them, and also getting a lot of input and feedback from our partnership with Sustainable Nantucket and working with some of the people from Health Imperatives, we've designed a program that can help screen and refer people who need help with food security and enroll them into a program where we get them that food. So in the program that we had initially designed, we look at working with an organization like a Health Imperatives, and when they see a patient or a client, they would screen them for food insecurity. And we've built we are using what we consider to be a really strong standard for screening. So we identify food security, and then they would refer them to us. And so we would take the person in need or a person representing a family in need, and we'd enroll them into the program. and the Pip and Anchor Food Hub would fulfill that food need. So they would get a healthy produce box to that person or to that family, initially with pickup, but really we're working to make sure we can deliver food to get people food where they need it. And that, so healthy local food would be delivered weekly to a family in need. And what we would do is we'd work with people in the program to evaluate it and make sure we're getting people the right food, the right amount of food, we're addressing the right nutritional needs, and we're moving as working with the local farms to get culturally relevant foods to make sure we're getting people food they know how to cook, food they like eating, food that meets the needs of whoever we're getting it to. And then we'd take that feedback and just work to keep improving the program. And so what we're looking for is to make sure that we know of the right organizations who might see food insecure neighbors of ours who can help screen and refer, and then get any feedback on the types of gaps for food security that might exist on the island that we should make sure that our programs either address initially or work to address over time. So that's really the program. It's pretty straightforward. And what we're doing right now is we've worked out a lot of the details of how it would operationalize. And we've worked with similar programs and other types of screening, referring, and some other work we've done. And we want to get started soon and find the right nonprofit partners or right healthcare partners to identify those people in need. And so that's where I think I'd really like to start, is to hear from you all, see if we're thinking about the problems the right way on the island where there is food insecurity, and see if there's any gaps we might be missing, and then also get feedback on organizations that should be referring.
So Matt, before I take comments from people, it might be helpful to tell us who you're working with already, so we don't spend a lot of time suggesting groups and organizations that you're already in contact with. Does that make sense? Kelly?
Yeah, I want to just add one more thing that kind of relates to this idea of food boxes coming out of Pip and Anchor, is that the process is just fully dignifiable. You're getting a food box from the same entity as somebody who's paying for it. So there's really the person who's driving there to use their own credit card to pay for a box is going through the same door that our prospective clients are going through. And I think that is what is really encouraging for me, and I hope everybody.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Do you want to walk through that?
Sure. So we already we've worked out how we would do this with health imperatives, and we've been speaking with community school, who thinks it could be another really great resource to identify and refer. We've talked with Family Resource Center, who I think we align on the program, and we're working to just figure out how to implement it. And then I think from there, Kelly, we've had initial conversation with Boys and Girls Club to see if they could be another group to work on some of the existing food programs they've done. And then there's a bunch of groups that we're really familiar with that we know are important, but we wanted to start more with kids on the island, because there's a lot more resources right now to help address food insecurity with kids. So we think it's the right starting point, and then once the program takes off, we can expand from there.
Okay, Athlon?
So it doesn't have to be a nonprofit, right? Correct. What about the school cafeteria, where they know kids are already on some kind of food program through the school, so there's evidence already that they are in need?
And would the school lunch program need to get, because we might be identifying private information, who would the referral come from? Through maybe a social worker at the school?
Yeah.
Do you know who the right contact would be over there?
It's different at each school. I can get it to you, so I don't take up time here. I can get your contact and I'll get it to you via email.
Great, thank you.
Great. Anybody else on the board have any questions or comments? Vanessa?
Yes, Matt. Yes, thank you, Brooke. Matt, my question is, are you guys gonna work kind of in partnership with Nantucket Assistance? Because they have like, they help, I don't know, maybe around, I'm not so sure, between 300 to 400 families they have helped in the past. So my question is if you guys, are we gonna work in partnership with them as well to help you guys with, to know what clients you can help and.
Which was the organization? I just missed the name.
Sorry, Nantucket Assistance, the food pantry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so NIFRA.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we've spoken. Well, so Kelly also works there, so we managed communicating that he's here today working with me, but he's also in the pantry. So we do communicate with Yoshi Palma and Janice Carrera, and I think we've told them about the program, and because they work on a similar program, I think we want to coordinate with them, but also running the program in parallel, because I think as we're trying to fill a gap, we don't want two programs to overlap entirely until we work out how the program can be more sustainable and operational, and then we can bring them together to help better coordinate.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, Kelly, did I cover that right?
Yeah, I think you could also include that we're speaking with the Interfaith Council as a whole, which is the parent organization of Nantucket Food, Fuel, and Rental Assistance. So we have ongoing dialogues with Max Wolf, who's the president, as well as we've presented to the entire board of the Interfaith Council.
Okay, great. I'm going to see if Claudia has any questions. And then Athlon. Okay, and Athlon, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking about with the school, thinking about summertime. They don't have all the kids in school, so maybe the summer camps would be a good resource in the summer season.
And the summer camps are run through community school, is that right?
They're not all. There are some individual ones as well that are pretty established on island.
Yep, Strong Wings.
And I actually have
Good one.
I have a potentially useful bit on that. If you email me down at the health department, all of the summer camps on the island have to fill out a health department assessment form, so I can get you the full list of licensed summer camps on the island.
Great.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to add to the list Small Friends and the other what did they rename the Rising Tide Preschool?
Oh yeah. What was that before? Wee Whalers? No.
Yes, it was Wee Whalers, and then it was
Yes.
something else, and then it was kind of been reinvented.
I also have the social services department at Nantucket Cottage Hospital would be an extremely good. I get referrals from them on a semi-regular basis. They have extremely tight confidentiality issues, but I think that as a program referral, that's something that you might want to look into there. The head of that is Sarah Chutkowski, and then my predecessor Taylor Hiltst is, I believe, working there, and I think she might also be a good contact for that.
Yeah, and then and the
HILTS.
HILST, I believe.
ST.
I think.
Yeah, Hilst.
Yeah.
And then I can put you in touch with Deb Du Bois at the Immigration Resource Center as well. And Sue?
I didn't know if I was allowed to jump in.
You are allowed. Our policy is to go through and make sure the board members' questions have been answered, and then the public. And so
Here I am.
have at it.
The
Yep.
public. I was going to suggest a safe place. They at least previously had a kind of low-key food pantry, but they would have clients that would know.
Great.
Yeah, and that's Jennifer Frazee or Carrie Bridges, and I can send you their contact information, Matt. Ethlyn?
I wonder, in an effort to funnel some of what you're doing, because having historically worked at Fairwinds for 15 years, we often would refer to the Family Resource Center for a number of things. I wonder if some of these ones like a safe place, Fairwinds, could all kind of coordinate with Family Resource Center to funnel through there. I wouldn't say like the schools and the daycares and that, but maybe some of these that are very and they're used to using the Family Resource Center, it might make it a little easier of a gateway for you guys, so you're not hearing from all of these different places.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that we're really trying to focus on is coordinating the right way for the community, because coordination becomes sometimes the extra work that prevents organizations from really adopting a program. So some of our work we've done with healthcare, healthcare data and software. So I think we can be appropriately private and careful with data where we need to, but we also want to bring groups together to improve the efficiency and make sure we're getting the same message to people regardless of where they're coming in, or tailoring it as appropriate. So we'd really like to, if you have suggestions on who might be the right group to take the lead on behalf of some other groups who are either smaller or it's less within their mission, I think that's really important. And it's a thing that's sometimes part of it's something that slows us down, is working through the progression with all these organizations to find out how much it fits within their program. So if you have any feedback on this group focuses on that, they could really take the lead for others, that would be really helpful information.
And it's a little bit of a balance, because coming from the perspective of the person who might have the necessity for food, you don't want to put too many places they have to go through to get that, because the more places, the more resistance. So we want to make sure to keep resistance low.
Yeah, I think screening can be an incredibly simple process. A couple minutes, just a few questions. And when you raise that positive flag for food insecurity, we can make the process of the referral really simple. And then I think one thing we'll keep working on is how to improve the rate from positive screen through successful enrollment, because people often get lost in the referral process because of that, either too many steps or other friction. And so that's something that, with our background of some of our teammates, we really will be focusing on improving the most.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the conclusion that the COVID resources response team came to when we were trying to get people access to resources during COVID for quarantine, was the Family Resource Center really is a good screening organization, intake organization. So, and they are trying to grow their presence and their in the community as such, as sort of a good place to start and be referred out to the other service organizations. So,
and just to make sure I understand it right, FRC is a state-sanctioned county-by-county organization. Because of Nantucket being a county and the town, we have our own here. And what is their charter specifically?
you would have to ask Elise. I don't really know. I know, and they have, it's interesting because during COVID, they were not able to accept any funding because their funding comes from the state. They're sort of in this interesting intersection between government and nonprofit. They're under contract with the state.
That's one interesting challenge, is a great administrative partner also can work with us to help fundraise into a program where we're getting money to pay for food, but some groups can't for many reasons, and that's just one of the things we're looking to balance with the partnerships that would make this a more sustainable program long term.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Yep. All right. Any other questions or final thoughts from you guys? Well, I appreciate your time. Second time's the charm, as it turns out. And if there's anything that you guys need from us going forward, feel free to reach out, and we can share any requests that you have with the group and put them on an agenda for a future meeting if there's anything you need from us. So
great. Thank you all.
Right.
Really appreciate the time today.
Yeah, thank
Terrific.
you.
And you're welcome to stay and hang out with us as we deliberate our future, and or to pop off if time doesn't allow. So
Great.
I was just going to say too, if you guys come up with any more names or organizations, kind of referring back to that question we had, just email one of us or both of us. But the names you gave us enough are already really helpful.
okay, and I'll have Ann send out their contact information to everybody. So
And Matt and Kelly, this is as human a service as I can think of. So if there's any way I can help, or there's any resources you can pull on, just shoot me an email, please.
Thank you, Jericho.
Thanks.
great. Okay, fabulous. All right, we will move on now to a discussion of potential future projects. So when we last met, we started spitballing some ideas about what we might focus on in our future work. And two of the things that sort of rose to the top of the conversation are listed in our agenda. And the first is a request to the Inquirer and Mirror to stop publishing the police blotter. And the other is a collaboration with the public schools to address bullying that seemed to rise during virtual homeschooling. And Athlon and I talked through this, and I think what we're wanting to do tonight is take each of these in turn and talk about what we might do, who we might invite to a future meeting to have a conversation on the topic if we choose to move forward with the topic, and then bring it forward and invite a more open conversation with stakeholders in the conversation at a future meeting, and maybe decide whether we want to take them simultaneously or in some kind of order. Those are the kind of thoughts that are in my head. So let's, I think, start with a conversation about the police blotter. And I know, Athlon, that this was a topic that you had, I think, raised. And I'd love for you to sort of recap for everybody what your thoughts were on that.
Sure, thank you. I've had a lot of opportunity to talk to individuals behind the scenes who end up in the police blotter in some way. And I find that there's a lot of shame and community shaming that comes from that, and embarrassment about having been in there. These are things that end up in the paper in a very public way that people have not even gone to court on yet. This is prior to that. So it's not even necessarily things that have been proven at this point, and they're in the paper, and we're a very small community. And I think there's a lot of shame, and I think it affects the entire community, not just the people who end up in the paper. But personally, even when I've read it in the past, I feel a little shame even reading it. And, you know, I had sometimes reasons to read it. And then I finally got to a point as a therapist in this community where I just had to stop altogether. I didn't even look at it anymore, because when people would come to be seen, there would be a lot of embarrassment about it. And I felt it was important on my behalf to say that is not something I ever look at.
Okay, thanks. Are there any thoughts on this from the other members of the board? Oh, we lost Vanessa. Hold that thought. That breaks our quorum. Hold tight. The advantages and disadvantages of virtual meetings.
No one ever mysteriously disappears from a room in person.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
I think we're dropping like flies now. Yes, Brooke just texted me. Oh, there she is. There we go.
Okay, here she comes. That was so weird.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Brooke. My phone just died.
Oh, no,
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm back.
That's okay. I lost my connection too.
Sorry.
So great. Okay. So having that pause.
Brooke, I wanted to add one more thing, if it's okay.
Sure.
That I was just considering is the question of what purpose does it serve? I think we should ask ourselves that question.
I was about to ask that question, Ethelene.
I mean, just for a functional, I mean, maybe there is, but I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Brooke, you're having difficulty with your internet?
Yes, I am. I'm going to try to connect to my cell service instead. Bear with me 1 second.
Failing that, disabling video tends to help with dropped connections.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my hotspot's not coming up. All right, I'm gonna stop my video. This is good. I don't have to look at myself. So Athlon, sorry, lost my trains of thought, all of them. Did anyone from the board want to ask Athlon any questions or make any comments? Okay, not seeing anybody.
I feel like
Athlon?
Sue had her hand up at some point.
Sue, did you want to say something?
I did. I wanted to mention that in a recent issue of Current, the newsletter, the e-blast that comes out of N Magazine, Jason Graziadei made a point of saying that he was not going to be printing the names and only listing the kinds of things that were happening in the court, but not specific people. So I thought that was a really nice move because he was recognizing that why are we dragging names through the mud before they're even convicted of anything?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Thank you, Sue, for bringing that up. Let's parse this out a little bit. If we were to take this on as a topic, what do you guys think we should do in terms of proceeding? And what action might we take? What process might we use? How might we move forward to bring the topic out there?
Brooke, could we maybe invite somebody from the local newspaper to join us, and maybe we could talk about it and try to understand why that kind of information is like they make available to the public or something like that.
Okay. So that would be to take that thought a little bit further, maybe invite the media, as it were, on Nantucket to come to a future meeting
Mhm.
to have a conversation about it. As a first step, a listening session from the media and even the public. And put it out there that it's going to be on the agenda, and if members of the public wanted to come and add their voices to the conversation as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay, let's put this on the suggestion box is with a little more flesh on the bones here, and let's bring up move to the collaboration with the public schools on bullying. And I believe, Claudia, you were sort of the lead in suggesting this idea, if I remember correctly. And if you'd like to remind us what your motivation for bringing the topic to us and what you hope to achieve.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, was talking with a couple of people, parents, that they were worried about the situation that happening in the school. The kids coming home and they don't really tell them what is going on, but they can, they can feel that something is not right. And the kids are afraid to talk to the parents, and also the parents. I'm talking more of the Hispanic community, which I was talking with, and parents were concerned because the kid says, no, you cannot, it's nothing that you can do. And, a couple of things that being happening at the school. I believe it's in the middle school. It's not even high school or the little ones. It's just, I think it's middle school they call.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And how might we, I mean, within sort of town infrastructure, we have the school board, we have the school administration, and then we have, and within school administration, guidance, the guidance department, as I understand it. And then there's the Council for Human Services. And I guess the question that I would ask is, what do we envision the role of this group in what is within our mission, and where does it fit with the school system as it's established? And if anybody has any sort of thoughts on what our role might be. Ethlyn?
I'm wondering if our role could be to kind of act in the same way that we are by collecting information from the community, and then in a more confidential way where we're not sharing who it is, but more sharing themes that are happening with the school, so they're aware of what's going on and what needs they might need to focus on within their school system.
Okay.
Instead of us getting involved in the nitty-gritty of the school, more helping the community to be able to have a safe way to voice what's happening without sort of outing themselves. Because I know middle school kids, I have one myself, they do not want their parents going straight to the school. They do not want to be identified as this being an issue, because they all consistently, whether it's in therapy, whether it's my kid, whether it's somebody else's kid, they say it will get worse. So I think what we can be is an interim, a safe interim, and a voice is my personal opinion.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on the?
Yeah, Brooke. Well, first of all, I'd like to say this is a very sad topic. And Claudia, I also have heard like stories like that happened, that is, have been happened in the middle school too. So I think that in accordance with Athlene, I think we have to understand what's going on in the community, what their thoughts are, so that we can start from there. So exactly what she said, like collect information from the community, like talk to them, without getting any names. The names is not, they are important, but we don't need their names. We need, we need their thoughts, their feelings, and we could share that, with the, in our meeting or with a school authority. I have heard some stories, and so I'll be happy to be one of the ones who, who like talk and say to the community, look, guys, I'm here, let's talk, and collect, if it is okay for them, collect that information and share, with you guys when the time comes. So we have to understand first what's going on in the community and collect that information. And then we can maybe with those information, we can, make up our questions to ask the school to understand. So what happened from there? So how they work, and why their families they are not trusting in the school, because there are situations like this. So we have to understand what's going on. So this is a very, we are talking about kids. We are talking about the future. So this is very serious. So yeah, so just to let you guys know, Brooke and the members, and say that I can be, one of the one who can, talk to the community and ask, and collect that information.
Any other thoughts? Sue, did you want to chime in here at all? Okay. So I'm sort of a couple of minds here in terms of community first versus reaching out to the school system to learn about what it is they do, like what their processes and systems are for taking bullying concerns in from kids and families and dealing with them. And then the other question I have for you guys is are we focused on bullying of kids of color, immigrant kids, or bullying in general? So these are just questions I have about the topic. So
Brooke, I think that is in general.
Okay.
So the stories that I've heard, so I'm talking about white kids, for example. So in general.
Okay. So I personally would be interested in learning, because I don't know what the systems are in place, and if so that there's sort of a two-step process of learning what there is, and maybe then providing some information back to the schools that we're hearing in the community in terms of what's not working for them. Athlene?
So it's kind of like a catch-22 really, because I think the school has a system and we need to learn exactly what it is. I've read through some of it before, but I think the school will do what they need to if the kids will come forward. I think one of the major issues is the kids don't want to come forward because of the public nature of getting everybody involved. The people who are bullying them find out and it tends to get worse, unfortunately. So I think that we can learn about the system, but I think I personally would love to see us get on the side of talking to the community. And I think we can let the school know and make sure they're okay with this as a way for us to address it. I don't think there's anything that's stopping us from communicating with the school to say, how do you feel about us doing it this way? This is on our agenda as something we want to address. And we would like to do this, and we'd like to do it with your stamp of approval. But getting to the community to get information back as soon as possible to the school, because I think the more the school has the information they need about themes that are happening, the quicker they can come up with things that can address that in more of a global way. So yes, there are individual issues that happen. Those individual issues, when you put them all together, they're going to have themes. It's just what's going to happen. And the school may be able to very quickly get something together to be more preventative and educational to address those themes that will affect more positively the children than addressing sort of what they have as their current system. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
I'm worried about the time factor, I think.
In what way?
I think there's a system in place that is being used, and there are some holes in that. And the better that we can be a voice to get information back up through to the school to make them as educated as possible about where the holes are, they will be responsive. I'm not worried that the school won't respond or be, I think they want this information. I just want to make sure that we don't take the educating ourselves first about their process first before getting the information to the school, I think is the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, so simultaneous. Well, I mean, it seems to me that one way to proceed on this would be for those of you who are hearing about this in the community to gather anecdotal evidence, stories that can be shared, and then maybe set an agenda item with plenty of notice and invite again the schools to determine who might come to a meeting and say that we are doing this sort of information collection piece, and we will have some things to tell you, and we hope you'll be able to come to our meeting at a later date. And realistically, probably the summer might be the best time to do this in terms of administrators who are probably working through the summer, whereas teachers are not. So we can find that out. So bandwidth for this group, time available, work that needs to be, how do we proceed in terms of, do we choose one of these as a priority to work on first? If summer's not a good time for the schools, it may be a good time to work on the police blotter piece, and then pick the school stuff up, lay the groundwork to pick that up back up in the fall. And I think that's going to that collection of stories can happen over a period of time, right? So Athlon?
The only thing that I want to add in about that is the administrators make the decisions. So if we can get the information to the administrators, the summer might be a good time for them to put the programs in place that need to happen with the teachers and the social workers and the counselors in the school as school starts. Because once they get into their school year, they're pretty full on.
Okay.
So it's just a thought that if we get the information to them in the summer, they might actually we might not put them under as much pressure to be working and figuring out how to address the issue.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I notice about the newspaper is not as much stuff comes out in the summer. So I think we have a bit of time. I think winter is where you see a lot of information.
Okay. So that sounds to me like a vote toward working on this bullying piece and starting to lay the groundwork on it and starting to make the connections to the schools, and collecting the information in the next couple of months, and then maybe getting them, well, see if they can come in July. You know, we have had some, my instinct is saying let's wait till August, because we're going to be going through the nomination process for the 2 new seats that are going to open up on this board. And in addition to the 2 open seats, that Sue has applied for one and Athlon will be renewing. And so we'll have our full 7 and then 2 additional members. And so maybe what we could do is sort of figure out among us now who wants to work on this project and commit to some time. We can work together in small groups, like teams of 2 outside of open meeting. So if anybody wants to sort of volunteer to start the process of outreach. Athlon?
I'm happy to. I've worked with the middle school counselors quite closely. So I feel like it's something I could connect with them on.
Okay, I did, when we brought this up, I did reach out to Pauline Proch, who's the chair of the school board, and she's interested in engaging in a conversation with us. So it's really just a matter of how we follow up. And she introduced me to a couple people and I also reached out to Beth Hallett, who gave me the names of some people in administration who would be the contact people. So I can pass that along to you.
Yeah, and Pauline and I work in the same building. So that might be very easy for us to make the connection.
Okay, great. And in the meantime, Claudia and Vanessa, if you guys want to start informally collecting stories for us to provide feedback when we get a commitment for folks from the school district to come and meet with us and have this conversation.
Sure, Brooke, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm agree with that.
Okay, great. Excellent. So that sounds like this is our next project.
I have a question, Brooke. So we are gonna
Yeah.
share those stories on our next meeting in July?
So I think what we need to sort out is, I'm actually wondering whether we need to meet in July. Well, yeah, we should probably do an update, meet in July, have an update on how everybody's doing in terms of gathering information. And Athlon, you can report back on how your outreach to the schools is going. And then we could plan on having a more formal agenda item for discussion and action with the schools in August.
Brooke, for case sensitivity, like case by case sensitivity, I want to make sure we are very, very careful not to share specific detailed interactions, because people can see this and it's Nantucket and they can figure out who's who. So I
Yep.
really almost feel like we need to make sure we don't tell like the situations that are happening, but more the themes that are being picked up in these situations that might help to address those things. I just realized I need to say that just before we get to the place of sharing it, because it just puts up my yellow flag of like, slow down before we.
And if I may interject here, remember, this is a public meeting that will be recorded and shared. We have to be very careful about that, and we cannot be sharing information outside of a recorded context or an on the record context. So we have to be very careful how we handle this.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the reminder, Jericho. So that, I think that would be the charges that we come back in July with more thematic, more general, ideas about what is happening than stories specific to individuals, or that could identify anyone that. So does that make sense to you, Vanessa and Claudia, what we mean by that?
Yes. Yes, I got it. Mhm.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because how Athelin says, these stories that I'm here, if I'm saying, of course, they going to know who it is right away. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's complicated. That is why last time, but I think it's necessary how we can help to, somehow to
Okay.
try to fix, or,
I will, I'm going to look into whether or not we can do an executive session of this particular body, which would be a session discussing private or confidential information that has special exemptions. I do not know if it's possible for non-regulatory bodies, but I will investigate that and report back for that on the next meeting of this body.
That's a great idea, Jericho. And I think, I think that as we're learning, we may not need to tell stories so much as tell why people are not feeling comfortable with this system. Think of this in terms of a system that we'd like to help fix the gaps in a system, that we're not about addressing individual personal needs, but that we're looking at this systemically and communicating to those who are in charge of that system what's missing or what's not working. And maybe that should be our focus. Does that make sense?
I would also like to chime in here and suggest that that is a much better way to phrase the actions of this body than as we are chartered to address human services organizations and human services need. If we're identifying a systematic failure of a anti-bullying systems at the school, that's a lot more on mission for us.
Yeah, I agree. Does that make sense to everybody?
yes.
Okay, great. Okay. That's good. So that will be our plan for July, to spend time focusing on that. The next item on the agenda is, I just wanted to fill you guys in on the effort that's happening in the community about creating a community center. There have been a couple of meetings, and it appears that there are sort of two groups or two ideas about what a community center means. One is more around physical health and recreation, and the other is more around the provision of human services and having a centralized place for human service nonprofits to organize and collaborate and facilitate in providing services to the community. And so the community school is interesting to me, is sort of sits in the juxtaposition between those two ideas. And because they are in contact with a lot of community members and are aware of human services needs and are a huge referring agency. And they also do recreation classes and sports classes and stuff. They have put together a proposal to the hospital's community health initiative program for a grant to do some assessment work in the human services arena. in terms of, and that is to piggyback on or move forward from the behavioral health needs assessment that is being done in collaboration with Fairwinds, the hospital, and catch me if I'm wrong, there's another group, Jericho. Is it
NAMI.
and NAMI? Thank you, Sue. Of course, I should have known. And that assessment is ongoing and will be completed in the fall. And I think the idea is that this next tranche of work would build on that work and broaden beyond behavioral health in its specific definition to broader human services needs in the community and organizations that are providing services. And then ultimately moving toward where collaborations might be possible, and then how to move forward from there. So they have a grant, and what I will do is I'll have Anne send to you guys the link to their grant proposal to the CHIP program, so you can get a more fleshed out idea of what this group is looking to do. So it's very exciting to me. It's, as many of you know, when I talked to you about joining this committee, it was something that I was interested in working on, and it turns out we don't have to take the lead, someone else has done it. So we can just provide support to that effort as in our role as an interface. I see us sitting between the human services agencies and the community and town government and administration and the select board in terms of helping facilitate communication and understanding and maybe garnering town resources where available in stuff like this. So anyway, so that's an update on that. And is there any other comments or new business from the board on anything? Or I didn't even ask if anybody had any questions about that.
Yes, Brooke, it's I'm very happy for hearing that about the community centers. It's really nice. My question is about what you said, the provision for human services. What kind of services? You know, that would be recreational that you said, maybe, or the community center would serve for provision for human services. So what kind of services, please?
Yeah, so it's really
Mm-hmm.
all the agencies on Nantucket that are providing human services, many of whom get grants through the Contract Review Committee. So Fairwinds, NAMI, A Safe Place, the Family Resource Center, and I'm trying to think, Jericho, help me with the list.
Artist Association, no, that's just regular CRC. For human services stuff, it was NAMI, Fairwinds, ASAP is now NAMI, Gosnold's, although they pulled out. Basically, a safe place. Anyone who's a non-profit organization that does social services, basically.
But it could also extend to some healthcare related, like Sunny at Health Imperatives is involved in this conversation as well. So I think it's going to look fairly broadly and then determine where the best sort of collaborative and cooperative efforts make the most sense in terms of having the needs of the community met, both from mental health, food insecurity, rental, everything. NFFRA, food, fuel, and rental assistance would be included in this group as well as a big organization in the human services arena. So this effort is not going the route of physical recreation. That is not part of this particular effort. It is more along the nonprofit health and human services kind of stuff.
Okay. Thanks, Brooke.
Mm-hmm. and we'll see. Okay, so we're at new business. We're running a little longer than with all of our internet issues and so forth. Any other things that the board wants to raise tonight? I would like to ask that because we've had some challenges on getting quorums for our meetings, and in particular, July is going to be maybe a bit of a challenge because I'm not sure Athlon will be able to be seated, but Sue might be already, and so we'll have to see. But when Anne sends out the reminders of the meetings, if you are unable, if you could just reply to her and let her know whether you plan to attend or not, that would be really helpful in terms of making sure we're going to have a quorum. Obviously, things happen at the last minute, and that happens. If you feel free to text me if something emergent comes up, but we'd like to plan, because if the meeting isn't going to happen, I want to be respectful of staff time as well, since they're meeting with us in the evenings. That if we're not going to be able to get together a quorum. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to say is that officially, as it stands right now, we are supposed to go back to in-person meetings on June 15th. We believe that the state legislature is going to extend our right to meet virtually, but I just want to hopefully through the fall, so we won't have to cross that bridge of meeting together in person for a little while longer. But as it stands right now, our July meeting legally today needs to happen in person. So, but I don't think that's what it's going to come down to. So we'll keep you posted by email on the status of all of that as well. So, all right. Any public comment from the public? Okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. You can't leave till somebody moves to adjourn. Somebody?
I so move.
Okay, and a second?
Second,
Okay, by roll call vote, Athlon Sweeney,
Yes.
Vanessa Rendero,
Yes.
Claudia Valle.
yes.
All right, and I vote yes. So we did it. We had a meeting. Thanks to Jericho and Anne, and we will be circulating a lot more information by email but first Monday in July, mark your calendars.
Excuse me, Brooke, the first Monday in July is July 5th, but that's a holiday for the town.
Oh, thanks for the reminder, Anne. Okay, we will circulate an email to the full board about coming up with an alternative date. And we may have to, July may become moot. So we'll see. So when Anne reaches out to you on a proposed meeting, if everybody could please confirm whether you'd be able to meet, we'll probably propose the following Monday as an alternative. So, but we'll wait and poll by email. All right, thanks for that, Anne.
Okay.
All right,
Bye.
have
Bye,
a good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, did I just hear a baby's voice?
Bye, everyone.